This is part 2, looking at this essay question. We are evaluating the benefits of economic growth to the UK. And we've said already that a couple of the benefits. One is that incomes will go up, increasing standard of living. Another one is that as output goes up, unemployment will go down. This one about people now having a job and being lifted out of absolute poverty. A question here, so this is evaluation, will it actually create more jobs? How many will be created? Or will machines or capital be used instead? Because we have a lot of automation occurring at the moment in the world, that some things which used to be done by people are now done by machines. So this would be an evaluation of actually the number of people who would now have a job because of the increase in output. Let's look at one final benefit. There are many, but one more benefit of having the economic growth. You could also say that there'll be an increase of investment by firms, because as more people have a job and incomes are going up, people are buying more products, and therefore firms feel more secure in investing in capital, because they know, for instance, if they need to take out a loan to buy the capital, that they expect to be getting enough sales so that they'll make enough revenue and enough profit to be able to pay off the loans that they take to buy the capital. So it's worth their while. If we have an increase in investment by firms, this will increase aggregate demand. But actually, if this happens for many firms within the economy, we'll actually have an increase in our productive potential over time if we have more capital stock overall. So if our net increase in capital stock is positive, that would actually increase the long run aggregate supply curve. It would shift to the right on this diagram, and actually it would cause a decrease in the price level if the LRAS shifted to the right. But I won't draw that on right now. Again, we need to think, for instance, of an evaluation point here. So you could question whether there are other elements in the economy which make investment by firms attractive. So, for instance, you need to look at the rate of interest that exists at the time in case they have to borrow to buy the capital. And it's quite possible that if the economy is growing and there's a lot of economic growth, then we may be seeing inflation, demand pull inflation, in which case actually the rate of interest might be being increased to decrease the amount of consumption and investment that's going on. So you need to see what the trade-off is going to be here overall. However, if we're experiencing economic growth, it's most likely that firms will want to be investing more. Right, the next part of the question, before we get on to looking at the actual text, because it said evaluate the benefits, we also need to think to see if there are any negative points of the economic growth. So let's have a look at a couple of these here. One would be damage to the environment, because if you've got an increase in output, it's possible that some of this comes from manufacturing, which is increasing, for example, CO2 emissions. Also, so that could be from firms producing, but the other reason we might have more CO2 emissions is because as people's incomes go up, more people, for instance, have cars and use more electrical appliances, and you can argue that electricity and fuel use goes up. So this is also from consumers. So that would be a bad thing about the economic growth that's occurred in the economy. Another thing that might happen, it could increase inequality between people in the economy, because while we have an increase in output, and as we've said over here, we'll have a decrease in unemployment and more people will have jobs, it may be that the people, for example, who own shares in company or own companies, they actually see a much bigger increase in their incomes than other people in the country. So not everybody benefits in the same way from the economic growth. We'll look at one last one. You could say that the quality of life for workers may go down because their work-life balance might be damaged by the fact that they have to work harder to meet the demands of the economy. If there's more economic growth, then expenditure is going up and the demand for products is higher. And will the quality of life for workers decline? So you need to have included all of this. Overall, it'll be about 25 minutes that you're taking to answer the question because it's 20 marks, so about 25 minutes to answer. You need to make sure that you've definitely included the diagram at the beginning and the definition, and probably you'll have time to put in 2 advantages and make sure that you need to have enough explanation and some examples as you go along just from your head, and you need to make sure that you are evaluating as you go along. But also you might then think about including some negatives in general about economic growth. That's how you should plan the whole of the answer. But then we've also got to make sure that we address this part of the question. If you've just done this, you're not there yet. We need to address this part of the question from the text about the concerns in the economy. And finally, we'll need to have a conclusion. And that's what we're going to do in the last video.